Hello and welcome to a new edition of interview. Hello and welcome to a new edition of Interview with Irene. Today my guest is the wonderful Buzzy Martin who will talk about his career in music and how music has helped him reach out to those who need it the most. I am very honored to have him on today. Welcome, Buzzy, and thank you for joining me.
Well, Irene, it's all my pleasure to be on your show. I thank you very much. I wish I could send some air conditioning your way, but yeah, we have the fog in right now. You're from Northern California. I wish I could send some fog your way.
Wow.
So yeah, so thank you. The gift of music for me has been an amazing journey, and you're right. Music really helps move the soul in a lot of ways. So I've been gifted to be able to work with the abused, the incarcerated, and homeless through music. It's been all my pleasure, to say the least.
That's wonderful. How about we start by you telling us how you got into music?
Sure. Um, when I was a young kid, my dad was originally my influence. He had played in a duo, and so at a very young age, I would watch him and his buddy play guitars on Saturday nights, and they were like a country or western band.
Wow.
So early on, I was turned on to music, live music through my dad. Then of course, the Beatles was a big deal for me when they came out in 1963, which would have made me 8 years old watching the Ed Sullivan Show. Um, Along the way, I was not a sports guy, so I wasn't really involved in sports, but I did love music a lot. So by the time I was 11, 12 years old, I was playing drums, guitar, and then by the time I was 14, I picked up keyboards. And that was starting my journey as far as, playing music, playing in the high school bands, rock and roll bands, not high school band, but rock and roll bands. And, for me being from Western Michigan, I listened to a lot of Motown, Bob Seger, Ted,
Right.
Ted Nugent, MC5, Iggy and the Stooges, all the local guys that were there, and they would come and play the roller rinks. So that was how I got my early introduction to music, was a lot of the live shows I would go to, and my dad playing music.
That's fantastic. Um, I, and again, you use music to do some admirable work like teaching music to the incarcerated and other marginalized groups. And you even wrote a book about your experience, Don't Shoot the Guitar Man, which I read and really touched me and really showed me how strong your impact can be. Could we talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. And thank you for reading my book. It really moves my heart. It's I didn't start out to write a book. For me, working in juvenile hall, I work with a lot of kids as young as 8 that want to go to prison. Let me say that again for all of your listeners. They want to go to prison. And the reason they want to go to prison is that's a badge of honor. And I'm sure in Chicago or anywhere in the United States, these kids feel like if you hurt someone, if you're afraid of them, that gives them street credibility. And so I was running into all these kids that wanted to go to prison. So I started teaching them the gift of music. And I've been doing that for a number of years. When this opportunity came along to do a music program in San Quentin State Prison, that was allegedly going to be a 12-week pilot program, and that lasted 3.5 years. So I would go into San Quentin State Prison and teach the gift of music twice a week. Now I would go to juvenile hall on Tuesday, and then Wednesday I would go to San Quentin. Thursday I'd be in juvenile hall to go back again, and then go to San Quentin. And these kids would get so excited because they would want to hear the stories, but then going to the inmates, they'd be so sad because they wanted to go home. Now, doing all this, I was smart enough to keep an audio diary going the whole time, which for your listeners, it was actually a cassette tape player, which I don't even think they make those anymore. But, you know, for me, I would talk into the cassette tape player and then talk about what the date was, what happened today, what's going on in the world. And then I would go to San Quentin. I would call my wife, let her know I'm going inside to San Quentin, because again, for your listeners, for any institution, especially state prisons, there's heavy rules. And the 4 rules in San Quentin are: you can't run. If you run inside San Quentin, you'll be shot. No questions asked. You can't wear blue jeans because that's the color of the inmates. You always have to have a picture ID on you at all times because they won't let you back out. And the last one is no hostage policy, which means that if there's a riot, they're not going to guarantee my safety. So I would call my wife and let her know when I'm going in and when I've come out. And so I would go in, do my 3 hours, teach these guys all kinds of songs and do whatever we did. And then I would get back out and talking to the tape player in between throwing up and crying, and tell all the stories that happened that night, not realizing a number of years later it would be a book. And that's basically how the book was birthed, was me coming up with all these stories on these cassettes. And so when the program ended, I had 9 90-minute cassette tapes. And that's how the book became a book. Should I go on, or? I love looking at your face. You're so beautiful. You're like, I can tell you're like intently hearing all these words. So basically, you know, for me, I was astonishing because I didn't go into this to write a book or write all these prison songs or have a movie made or be compared to Johnny Cash or Merle Haggard. I didn't do any of that. I just felt like I was working with these kids that really were abused, and they had these false ideas of what prison would be like. And I thought if I could at least go for a little bit and get an idea and bring it back to these kids, then hopefully I've helped them. And along the way, I didn't realize what I found was what's the meaning of freedom, how to treat a human, to be kind, to not profile people. And I learned an awful lot because people ask me all the time, you know, what did I learn? And just, you know, the first word is freedom, because you and I have freedom, and that's what these kids don't understand, is that when you have your freedom taken away, even for a few minutes, you know, it's life-changing. Am I doing okay for you?
Wonderful. I'm taking it back because I know all my life I lived a very privileged life where I was taught to get educated, work hard, and I know in my circle many of the people were raised with that to work hard and not get in trouble. So I can't even imagine growing up in a community where people actually want to get in trouble and want to go to prison and would sacrifice their freedom just to get that street cred. That to me might take a while to process. So.
Well, you know, I mean, hearing your story, it's the same thing as like your family wanted you to succeed and do as best as you could.
Right.
Well, it's the same thing with these kids. It's like, you know, dad's in prison, uncle whoever is in county jail, bigger brother's in juvenile hall, and that's what they know. And that's what they aspire to. And so what I try to do or do, that's kind of a weird word. I uneducate and unlearn these kids of what they've been taught, because we have a whole generation of kids that have been spoon-fed hate and gangster rap, and I understand the gangster rap because I don't live in that situation, but it's a deal that I really believe that if you try to have more positiveness and more kindness and information, that hopefully, as humans, we can all grow. But we don't want to get into politics. My wife said, "Don't talk politics at this point." Politics or religion will get us in trouble. We have this aura right now of being not so kind, and for me, through the gift of music, I've tried to relate it to kids. So I understand what you're saying, and that's why I wrote the book. Really, is because I was in the situation to where I really couldn't believe it either when I was talking to these kids of how they really, that's how they want to do it. I gots to do what I gots to do. And it's like, well, no, you don't. You don't have to do that. You don't have to go to prison. It's not necessary that you have to do that. I think that you can achieve a lot more. What I tell these kids is, my dad worked in the factory line at General Motors. He didn't make a whole lot of money. He had an 8th grade education, but he taught me enough to have honor and kindness towards my fellow human beings. And I got a 12th grade education. I didn't go to college. I didn't do anything but other than graduate from high school and get right into the bars and play music, and walked up the ladder and worked really, really hard. And I think if I can do this, anybody can do it. You just got to work really, really hard and learn to hear no an awful lot. But that's life, right? That's just what it is. Nothing comes easy. And so thank goodness for you and I, that we can inform other people of what life is really all about. And it's not all full of peaches and cream sometimes.
Right.
You got a beautiful smile. You really do. Your smile.
You're so, you are too sweet. Thank you so much. I tried. But I know you're not doing it for the movie or anything, but your book is going to be developed into a movie. Do you have any update on that?
Yes, I do. Matter of fact, I don't know if you can get on the internet now, but if all your listeners, all they have to do is go to guitarmanthemovie.com, and you'll see the trailer. So the movie has been filmed. It's called Guitar Man. It's by Prodigy Motion Pictures, and it's won 11 film festivals. I don't know. I guess I didn't send you the trailer, but I'll do that when we're done.
Wonderful. I can link it in the description of this video.
I'm sorry?
I can link.
Oh, yeah. I'll do that. Right. Exactly right. So yeah, the movie is done. They have, it's been a really amazing adventure for my wife and I to go to some of these film festivals, because again, when I explain to people what my life is working with these kids or the inmates or the homeless, I think I scare people, because they really they don't know what to say. They're at a loss of words. When we've been to a couple of these film festivals, and people say, this movie's really disturbing, and I say, well, thank you, I appreciate that. They're like, no, you don't understand. I go, no, I understand. I understand that you find it disturbing, and that's great because you get it. Because when we talk about 85% of the people that I work with in San Quentin were there for nonviolent drug, alcohol, mental health crimes, they didn't do anything to anybody but themselves. And when I think about county jail or juvenile hall, I find that most of these are abused kids, physically, sexually, mentally abused. A lot of times come from divorced families. And so, again, for me, to have this movie portray these stories that I've seen, it's flabbergasting for people. And it's life. I mean, sometimes life is overwhelming. And we just have to learn how to deal with those situations. Pain is a really hard thing sometimes when you look in the mirror and go, oh, I had no idea. Like, again, the climate politically right now and the way things are going, I mean, it's we live in strange times here in America. When you think about how many people we lock up per capita in the world, we're the number one in incarceration. 2.7 million people locked up. And I don't think that's federal prison or county jail or juvenile hall. That's just state prison. That's a lot of people.
Right.
That's a lot of sons and uncles and dads and cousins and brothers that, for whatever reason, we lock these guys up, and women too, for really stupid things.
Yes. I agree. Terrence Goldman was my guest on a previous episode, and we talked a little about the same topic. So I agree, it's a topic that we need to somehow resolve.
Oh, I agree. Not to pick on Chicago, but I being from Michigan, and I read an awful lot. Irene, this is the question I asked everybody. What is the number one mental health unit in the country? I'll just answer it for you. It's Cook County Jail.
Oh gosh.
Because we don't have any mental facilities for anybody that, if a 5150, for your listeners, a 51, you know what a 5150 is, right?
Yes.
Yeah, for your listeners, it's somebody that's in a lot of mental anguish. They're in trouble. They may be at the point of wanting to have suicide or whatever. So out here and where you're at, they just bring them to jail and check them out there because there's no facilities for people to really get examined. And when you think about it, we have all these people falling through the cracks. Now, I don't know what the homeless is back there, but the homeless situation in California is way, way crazy. Not to, use a pun as crazy, but the mental health is really out of control because there's no place to go. So you put them in jail, lock them up, or put them in prison.
Yes.
And we should have this conversation because, again, when you have private for-profit prisons that are making money, and I won't get into the name calling of who belongs to that. I mean, anybody can go, Google CCA, which is Corrections Corporation of America, and see who the board who's on the board or the shareholders are. You'd be astonished when you're trading in a stock market on private for-profit prisons. It's kind of icky. So on the good note is through my book and through the movie and through my songs, I'm getting this information out and constantly say education, not incarceration.
I agree 100%.
Absolutely.
Right.
So what's the temp outside?
Oh gosh, it's like I can do. Oh, let me check.
I know it's terrible. I don't mean to pick on you.
No, and yeah, it's
my second question would be, what's the humidity? That's the big one.
It's like 93, but the heat index should be 100. Yeah.
And how? Yeah. And you live right in Chicago?
Yeah, it's on the northwest side. Yes.
How far from the lake?
About 20 to 30 minutes, depending on traffic. Yeah.
It's sticky. That's all I can say. It's sticky where you are.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't be picking on you.
Oh, no. I'm enjoying this so much. Actually turning to another lighter note, do you have any other hobbies?
Hobbies? Yeah, that's an interesting thing, because everybody, obviously music's not my hobby. Music is my job. Right. Hobbies, yeah, I like, I have, my wife and I have this little garden. And
Uh,
and what I do is as I go to like garage sales or Goodwill and stuff, and I get these old or not old, but toys or ceramic things that are faded and broken, and then I paint them and fix them up and I put them in the garden. And so I like going in the garden because it's like a safe place because again, what I work with and stuff is pretty toxic. And so I try to detoxic that and go with fun things. So
yes.
painting is really, I like doing that. I like riding. I have this pretty, it's like a Pee Wee Herman bicycle. So my wife and I go on bike rides and do that. I love hanging with my wife. My wife allows me to be me, and I do mean that very sincerely. We've been with each other for 39 years, and just to be with her for me is a delight.
That's
It's
beautiful.
wonderful. You know, she's my June Carter Cash. She's really allowed me to write these songs and write the book and play the music that I do and go into San Quentin. So for me, basically, you know, life is I live life every moment, totally by the moment, because we only have so many moments, right, Irene? Only
Yeah,
so many moments. So that's what I do. So for fun, like I said, just reading books. I love reading. I read a lot. Um, and just taking walks and smelling the fresh air and just enjoying life that way.
that's beautiful. Any advice for future musicians or writers?
Well, what I tell everybody is if you really seriously want to be anything, whatever it may be, you could be an actress or an astronaut or a cowboy or a musician or a writer. You really got to jump in, no
Right,
matter no matter what it is. um my wife's really a sports nut, and so last year with the Warriors, I mean the Warriors were killing it, and so I started watching along with my wife because I wasn't really a big sports guy, and these guys were great when they were doing it, and I just thought, these guys are really really good. So I started checking them out, and of course they all been playing since they were little kids,
mm-hmm.
and they never stopped. And so advice to anybody is you really got to look if it's something you really feel passionate about doing and want to do, then you just got to do it 1,000% or 10,000%, and never take no for an answer. Understand you're going to hear a lot of no's, but that one yes is what you're trying to get,
Yeah,
and you got to stick with it. There was a guy named Lee Strasberg, which is a famous acting coach. You're way too young, so you probably wouldn't even know what Lee Strasberg is. And he would talk to these up and coming actors like young Robert De Niro or young Christopher Walken or Al Pacino, and he'd say, "What's the hardest part about being an artist?" And so they'd go through, the rejection, no money, long hours, and he said, "No, just sticking with it." And that's the hardest part. So to any of your listeners that don't want to be an actor or a writer or a musician, you just got to jump in. This is where my wife again allowed me to do this because this is my job. I don't have like a factory job and then come home and practice. This is what I do. I practice a lot. I play a lot. Actually, I just blew my shoulder out a few days ago. That's not been good, but I've been putting ice on it all night, and because I play so much, and I have to take a break now for doing that. But I just jump. You just got to jump in. Be really serious and dedicated to what you're trying to do. Not to alienate any of your friends or family, but really get in there, and whatever it may be that turns you on, be really great at it.
right.
I hope that answered your question. I
Um,
love talking to you. This is great. No, you're a really sweetheart. I'm having fun.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us. But since you love it, we hope to have you again.
Oh, Irene, I would be more than delighted. I hope someday to be on live. It would be really nice to be right sitting next to you and do this.
Yes, definitely. We'll have to do live from your movie premiere.
Absolutely, I'll do that. And then for all your listeners, as soon as we get done here, I'll send that link over to you about the trailer for you.
Wonderful. And I will put that link in the description.
Thank you very much. And you stay cool, right?
I will try,
All right.
yes.
Well, thank you very much, Irene. I appreciate your time, and thank you for reading my book.
Thank you. And, bye. And we will see you next time on
Yes, we will.
with Irene.
Thank
Bye.
you. Oh, my